Ah, my sweet friend, the Levels tool. It's one of Photoshop's most used commands, and it's got all sorts of uses. We'll focus first of all on its most basic function, which is as a lighting correction tool. Now I'm going to be using an adjustment layer because it means we can do this non-destructively. So I'll just click on the adjustment layer button in the Layers palette and choose Levels. This brings us up the Levels dialog box. It shows us a rather scary looking graphic. This is called a histogram. This will tell us exactly what the population of pixel luminosity is in our current image. Now in English it simply means how many pixels are there in this image that are pure black, how many are pure white, and how many are exactly in between the two. So as you can see, there are some very dark pixels but no pure black ones, and there are some very light pixels, plenty of them, but nothing that's pure white. Now this gives us an indication that there might be a problem with the image. This graphic is not here just to confuse us, it is in fact here to guide us during our correction with the tool. If it looks like this, where you've got a big spike happening at one end of your graphic and then suddenly nothing, this indicates that you might be missing some lightness or darkness in the luminosity range of your image. So if I drag in this light pixel point marker, it's now going to change the way the pixels behave. And as you can see, as I draw this in towards the edge of the graphic, the lightest pixel has become lighter. Works like a brightness control, but it really has the effect of cleaning up the whites. Whites which were now grey will improve to a very nice pure white as I drag them further and further towards the graphic. Now if I keep on going, it's going to start wiping out all of the subtle tones of white and grey until it's completely washed out. So use the graphic as a guide. Drag in the white point so it just touches the edge of where the slope of the graphic begins, and that'll generally give you a very nice result. Now for the dark end, where we have our dark pixels, we can see that it's not quite up to the edge, so I'll just drag that in just a little bit so it just touches the edge, and that just hardens up the darkest pixels in the image so that the blacks become a little bit more solid. Now the real strength of this tool is right here. This function in the middle is called midtone, or gamma as it's more correctly termed. We can use this to drag and adjust all of the color shades or luminosity shades that happen between our preset white and black pixel points. Now those white and black pixel points will not alter no matter what we do with this midtone gamma slider. So we've got freedom here to adjust how bright or how dark the other luminosity tones in the image are based on what we have created for black and for white. Now this is much more powerful than a simple brightness and contrast function that you might get on a TV set. In fact, if you go down, you'll find these two sliders here called output levels, and they are almost exactly equivalent to a brightness control on a TV. If you drag the black, you change how dark black is. If you go to the white, you change how light white is. But to be honest, we don't really use these two very often. Special cases, yes, but most of the time we leave them alone. No, we play with the black point, dark point, and mid-tone points most of the time. Okay, I'll just reset this using Alt. I'm using a PC here, so I'll press Alt. For those of you using a Mac, you will of course be using Option for this. It changes the cancel button into a reset button, and it'll just reset the tool. Now the next little function in here to make the job easier are these three little eyedropper tools: black point, white point, and midtone. We can choose a sample from our image to be black, white, and grey, and let Photoshop do the work for us. Simple terms, I'll take the black eyedropper and I'll choose the point in this image that I would like to define as the darkest point in the image. That would be used for black pixels. So I'll say that looks pretty dark there, and I'll say I'm happy with that to be black. And you see how it shifts the histogram, and the darkness of the image at the black end has just hardened up a little bit. It's a little bit darker now. I'll go to the white eyedropper and say, what do I want to be pure white? And I'm looking here for highlights on the skin to be pure white here. So we'll say something about there, looks good. And that lifts the whites a little bit, balances it up a little bit more. And finally, we have the mid-tone. Now if you can't find a genuine grey in the image, skip this, do it by hand. Just drag along the slide of yourself until you find a point that matches. But if you can find a pure grey, and you might have to hunt around to find it, it'll do a good job for you. In fact, it will also help clean up any colour problems. So this is obviously a mid-tone grey, so I'll just use that as my grey point. And I get a little colour shift because it's not just adjusted the lightness, it's also balanced out the colours for me. And I'll say OK. This was before, and this was after the adjustment with levels. Pretty neat little tool, huh? Well, we've got even more that we can learn about levels in the next tutorial.